Hello there. This is a video about how to install a Bladerunner Tremolo system into a Stratocaster guitar. This guitar is one that I've just recently put together with parts. It's entirely a self-build parts-a-caster, if you like, with an ash body and a maple neck and decent pickups and electronics. But where the guitar falls short is with this vintage style tremolo system. Which is kind of like an old Fender type, but it's not a Fender, it's a cheap Chinese system, which I've done a little bit of work with to try and get it to work as good as possible, but it does have issues which I'll explain in a minute. So rather than persevere with this cheap tremolo, I thought I would buy a much better quality replacement system. And as I said, this is the Bladerunner by the Super Vee company. After doing a little bit of research, what I read on the internet was that the Bladerunner is supposed to be a very high quality tremolo that holds its tuning well and is easy to install. So I thought it would be worthwhile making a short video to let you see how to install that tremolo system. This is the tremolo system that we're going to remove. It's the classic old Fender design with the 6 screws at the front. The tremolo pushes against those screws and pivots on a knife edge. You have, of course, got the springs underneath the guitar which pull the tremolo back into position. I've set this up to be floating as well, so there's a little bit of upward bend as well. But tuning problems can often occur at this point here where the tremolo pivots, and I think that's what's been the problem with this. The other thing that I'm not particularly happy with is the way that the arm is loose and it rocks a little bit in the trem block. It's just because it's a cheap thing, so I'm going to remove the strings now and take this out. So with the screws and the springs removed now, we can easily lift this old block out, and you can see across the front here where the 6 screw holes are. Actually, before I installed this old system, I filed the knife edge here to try and get it a bit sharper. We can also see the pivot point there, which it doesn't even appear to be in a straight line. It should be further back, it should be behind the screws. So all in all, not particularly very well made. That's just trouble, never going to stay in tune very well. So let's get rid of that and take a look at what we're going to replace it with. Alright, so inside the box then what we find is first of all the instructions, which is important to me because I've never fitted one of these before. There's the trem itself, the block. See straight away the blade thing, we'll take a look at that in a second. The tremolo arm, which has this extended bit on there. I wonder why. An Allen wrench, and also the 3 springs, screws, and the spring claw, and another Allen key as well. So I'm going to have a look at the instructions now and see how this all goes together. Okay, well I've just read a little bit of the instructions, and what I've learned is that well, the tremolo itself, for a start, it has 6 solid saddles there made of steel, which are adjustable by these 6 Allen key screws for the intonation, of course, and you can also adjust the height. But what's really interesting here is along the front here, this bar, rather than having the 6 separate screws that the old tremolo would rock against, this front part of the trem actually screws solid to the wooden body of the guitar. It requires only 4 screws. And you can see the holes are oval shaped, which means you can slide the tremolo from left to right to get your string alignment perfectly correct. But what's innovative here is there's a spring steel blade, which is where the Bladerunner name comes from. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's a very thin, that must be incredibly tough, because that's where the trem actually pivots. That blade bends. This is screwed solid to the body, remember, and the blade bends to give you the trem movement along, of course, with the springs underneath the guitar. Just flipping over here as well, the trem block is made from a special alloy which is supposed to offer improved tone and sustain, and there's a nylon lock nut which keeps the trem arm nice and firm in the block, so there's none of that sloppy play that I mentioned earlier with the old system. So this should drop quite simply into the guitar. Remember, we've already got the 6 screw holes drilled into the body from the previous Tremolo system, and we only require 4 for the Bladerunner, and that's the block there at the front that just fits over those holes, and that screws solidly down to the wood across the front, and there's the blade that bends when the trem is used, and there's 4 screws provided. And in the instructions it says that apparently these are a little bit tough to screw down because they're a good solid tight fit against this this front part of the trem. So I'm going to do that now. And just before I tighten these 4 screws, you can see that the trem can be adjusted from side to side slightly, so you can get your 2 outer E strings lined up perfectly on the neck. We obviously won't do that till the guitar's strung up, but I'm going to screw them down solidly now. So with the block in place now, it's simply a matter of just flipping the guitar over, and I've got I already had a spring claw installed in this guitar, so I'm just going to leave the one that was in where it is. It has the earth wire soldered to it, and it's already screwed in. Although there is a spring claw provided with the Bladerunner system, and there's also 3 springs, which are usually a little bit awkward. But there's the first one in. Just put the other 2 in after that. There we go. Next, I've installed the 2 outer E strings just to check what the string alignment's like, and what I can tell from looking right over the top of it is that maybe the trem could move a little bit in this direction, so I'm going to loosen those strings off, take the springs out, loosen those 4 screws and just pull it over a little bit, put it back together, and then it should be good to string up and set up. So now the guitar's been strung up, and I've set the radius using the radius gauge with the Allen keys that are provided, and also the intonation. And just a quick word about that, I didn't have to move the saddles particularly too far. It seems that there's been some thought put to the position of the saddles before this left the factory. It almost intonated quite perfectly with just some minor adjustment. So it's nice to see a product that's left the factory with a little bit of work done. Rather, I mean, sometimes entire guitars leave the factory and then they're not set up very well. This has had a little bit of thought behind it, so that's great. So now we're going to screw the tremolo arm into the block and have a look at the spring tension. So with the arm screwed into the back, what we can now do is flip the guitar over and remove this nut, which gives access to the nylon the nylon lock nut, which allows you to adjust the tension of the arm. So you can just use a flat bladed screwdriver and get the arm to feel nice and loose or nice and tight, however you like it. So that's the adjustment there. There's the nylon screw. If you tighten it up, you can feel the arm gets a lot more solid. If you loosen it, then it becomes sloppy, and some people like to have the arm like that. I don't. I like to have it a bit firm, so I'm going to tighten that up, and then just replace that lock nut there with the Allen key, and then that's done. So as you've just seen, I've replaced the original plastic nut with a brand new bone nut that I cut by hand, and all that remains now is to I'm going to use some of this stuff here called Super Glide, which is a nut lubricant. For years I've used pencil lead in the nut slots of my tremolo guitars just to lubricate the nut a bit, but this is a new product, so I'm going to put a little bit of this in between, underneath each string in the nut slot, and that should improve tuning stability even further. And then when that's done, all that remains is to try the guitar and see how well the tremolo performs.